Here to discuss now, former U.S. Attorney Guy Lewis and CNN legal analyst and defense attorney Shan Wu. Gentlemen, good evening to you. Good to have you on. Guy, I'm going to start with you. We've got Flynn, Comey, Sessions. Tom Foreman just laid it all out. Don McGahn knows a lot, and he spent 30 hours talking to Mueller's team. How dangerous do you think he is to President Trump?
Don, I think that McGahn is potentially a bombshell witness. No kidding. Look, I did this for a long time, and very seldom did I get an opportunity to actually interview and potentially use the testimony of a lawyer who's next to, walking with, day by day, day in, day out, with the target or the principal of the investigation. Highly unusual, and the information that he may have in terms of real-time thinking. I mean, think about this, Don. How many times have you interviewed a witness, a guest, for 30 hours? How much information could you get out of them for 30 hours? I think McGahn is going to be helpful to Bob Mueller and to his crew.
Shan, you say that Don McGahn being interviewed by Mueller is worse than Trump himself sitting down with the special counsel. Why do you say that?
That's right. Because for Trump to sit down, he'll be careful, he'll be prepared. A lot of his answers will, of course, be censored and filtered. You don't get that when he was talking with McGahn. With McGahn, you get somebody who was right there walking with him, as Guy was saying, and he's naturally going to be quite forthright with McGahn at that time. He may be musing out loud what his real motivations are. He may be saying, hey, I'd like to do this. Do you think that's okay to do? So in that sense, you really get the raw, unfiltered version from McGahn, and that's what makes it so incredibly dangerous.
So, Guy, McGahn also refused a presidential request to fire Robert Mueller. Is the special counsel in danger with McGahn out of the White House?
I think that is possible, although I do agree with Tom that if the president, who clearly wants to, if it was up to him, he'd fire Mueller yesterday, right? But to do it, I think, is frankly political suicide, and probably would be counts 13, 14, and 15 in a proposed indictment. I really do think that.
Yeah. Guy, you say the government now has a trifecta of potentially crushing witnesses for President Trump. Explain that.
Don, take a step back and look what they've got now in the last 30 days. They've got Cohen, again, the president's lawyer, almost unheard of, who has on the record in his plea colloquy and what he said and what Cohen said to the court, has said the president directed me, the president told me how to make these hush money payments, and the president is involved in this conduct, which he pleads to as a campaign finance violation. He's also got now Weiselberg, the CFO of the Trump organization. Again, how often do you get the insider, the CFO, the guy who knows the money trail the most? And then lastly, he's got McGahn. And that's not including all the other witnesses that we've heard of, Don. General Flynn, Manafort, who is eventually going to flip. I'd bet you 3 to 1 that he's going to wind up. He's not going to go to jail.
Why do you
for
say
life.
that?
Well, because look, he's facing life imprisonment. He's got another retrial on the counts that the jury hung on 11 to 1, and then he's got the case coming up in D.C. within 30 days. Look, Mueller's not going to back off. Mueller's not all of a sudden not going to say, oh, let me just start going easy on Manafort. They're going to keep pounding Manafort until he submits, and submission means cooperation against the president with the Mueller team.
So, Shan, I also want to talk more about Paul Manafort's case with you, because Mueller's team wants to review emails between Manafort and one of his former lawyers, messages that would typically be protected by attorney-client privilege. Do you think the special counsel has a real shot at getting these documents?
I think they do, because previously a D.C. judge had already ruled that utilizing the crime fraud exception, that lawyer, who has not actually been publicly identified specifically, but everyone pretty much knows who they are, had to testify because the judge had determined that this could have been part of the crime being part of the failure to register under the foreign agent registration act. So I think Mueller's folks are kind of halfway there already. They were very limited in what they asked the judge for there. They had promised not to ask for notes. They promised to not ask for opinions about witness credibility, and they got that testimony. Now they want to go deeper. They want to go one step further, and I think it's kind of a belt and suspenders approach here. They want to make sure there aren't any surprises with the testimony at trial, and they really want to shore up with paper documents whether or not Manafort and arguably Gates, my former client, knew that they were submitting anything that was false or not.
So today, though, Shan, a judge gave Mueller's team gave him extra time to decide whether to seek a retrial for Manafort on 10 criminal charges that jurors were unable to reach a verdict on last week. What kind of options are they likely weighing right now?
I think one big factor for them is there are some post-trial motions that Manafort's folks have filed, and they probably want to get the judge's ruling on that as well. It does buy them a little bit more time potentially to follow up on that kind of last minute, right before midnight talk that Manafort's team raised with them about maybe working out a guilty plea. I think the problem back then, I'm sure Guy would agree, there's no time at all, waiting for the jury to come back in to work out that kind of deal. This does give them a little bit more of a window as to talk, get some proffers from the lawyers, see if Manafort really could be helpful to them or not. I think I disagree with Guy, though. I think Manafort's not likely to plead in this case. I think his team has been pretty adamant from the beginning that they want to go to trial on these and defend him. But I do agree the pressure is enormous. I'm really, at this point, he's got 3 trials going on. He's had the one, they may retry him on those other counts, and he's got the D.C. one coming up. So, I mean, that's just an incredible amount of pressure to be putting on him.
We'll have to hear from Guy next time, his response to all of that. Thank you both. I appreciate it. We'll be right back.